So let us start with our passage. Here it is on your screen. So read it and then let me know so that I can move you over to the next one. Okay, moving you. Oh, hi Rajeshwari, just saw your message. Have you read this? Okay, so taking you over to the next slide. Okay, so taking you over to the next one. In case you have not been able to read it, you can always pause the video, read it, and then join us. Ready? Here is the next slide. Done with this? Come on, just drop me a quick yes. Okay, here is the next slide for you. Shall we? Okay, so here you go with the last part. Done? So when I say done, what do I really mean by it? So when you read a passage, you're basically supposed to ensure just this one thing, and that one thing is overview. Right? So for me, overview basically means you know what the passage is about, you know what the author's purpose behind writing it is, and you have this third part is really very important. Okay, you have the key idea of every paragraph in your mind so that when you look at a question, you know which paragraph to go back to. Okay, so this is a skill that you need to train yourself for, and moving forward with enough practice, with enough time, I am absolutely confident that you will be able to do it. So let's go ahead and take on the questions based on the information supplied by this particular passage. Start. Ready? Okay, so here is your question number 1 on the screen. You have around 40-50 seconds and then we can start our discussion of this particular question. Sorry. So what's your answer for question number 1? Now, I will give you a lot of questions today which are reasoning based, but that are a precursor to the other more challenging, more complex reasoning based questions. So any question where you see a because asks you for the reason provided by the author. So it requires rudimentary understanding of a passage, of the structure of an argument. So let me take you back to the relevant part of the paragraph. What are we supposed to answer? Manufacturing in India has been stagnant because. So here is that relevant part. See, Indian manufacturing had been stagnant for decades. The stagnation stems from, now here are the reasons. The failure of the state to build functioning ports and power plants. That's one. This is another one. To create an environment in which the rules governing labor, land and capital are designed and enforced in a way that encourages entrepreneurs to invest, particularly in factories. So there are these two reasons that are cited. Now, if I go back to the question, you notice A says lack of availability of skilled and educated manpower, particularly in rural areas, has not been cited in the passage, so we can eliminate it. Lack of investment in required infrastructure, label-friendly rules and land acquisition norms. Let me show you these things once again. So you notice, absolutely yes, these are the things that are talked about in the passage. So B appears to be the front runner. C, lack of investment in primary and higher education, not mentioned. Lack of investment in tech, telecom, IT, not mentioned. So B is the only thing that has been cited to provide support to this fact that manufacturing in India has been stagnant. And that is why our answer to this question should be option B. And with that, let's dive into our next question. So question number 2 on your screen. Go ahead and share your answer. Thinking. Okay, so shall we look at it? So first up, let me take you to the relevant part of the passage. Here it is. So between 89 and 2010, India generated about 10 million new jobs in manufacturing, but nearly all those jobs were created in enterprises that are small and informal, and thus better suited to dodge India's bureaucracy and its extremely restrictive rules regarding firing workers. So basically, in a way, these jobs were added to this segment because of these traits. So you realize two core traits: dodging Indian bureaucracy and better ability to deal with extremely restrictive rules regarding firing workers. Now, which of these four answer choices represent that particular part the best? Is it A? No. B, is it B? They are able to hire less number of workers. No. This is not mentioned. Have to pay less taxes. Again, not mentioned. C, better suited to handle the bureaucratic procedure. Difficult labor laws regarding dismissal. Absolutely. That is what has been mentioned there. And that is why the correct answer to this question should be C. If you look at D, you'd realize it is once again not mentioned in the given context. And therefore, even D can be eliminated. So you realize when I say that we need to build that ability to generate overview, it is important because that overview allows us to refer to the right part of the passage. So the time that you invest in becoming better at generating overview is going to give you huge amount of returns, because almost invariably for almost every question we need to go back and refer to some part of the passage, right? So here is the next one. Question number 3 on your screen. Tell me what you think. Now, if you remember the last couple of paragraphs of this passage, the answer is easy. Okay. So, if, as I said, if you remember that location correctly, the last couple of paragraphs where this was discussed, you'd realize that B, absolutely Rajeshwari, that's indeed correct. B is going to be the right answer for us. Just refer to the right part and you would once again see these reasons cited. Okay, Nishant, absolutely correct. Absolutely. Rajeshwari, when you say you are on duty, which duty? You working on a Sunday? Then that makes you and me one of a kind in that sense. Okay, here is the next question on the screen. Rajeshwari, answer these questions first and then you can tell me what exactly is keeping you occupied today. So, fourth question. Oh, okay, yes. Yeah, I remember you work in what, the oncology department of a hospital. You're the same girl, right? Okay, Nishant, I see that. So let's go back to the right part. Now the answer to this question can be found in the very first paragraph of the passage. So here is that first paragraph. Now you notice right? So these are the various parts that you needed to refer to in order to figure out the correct answer. And if you refer to this, sustained growth has been identified most powerful driver of economic boom because, see, increases income and consumption at home. It also generates foreign revenues that allow you to bring foreign machinery and further improve your efficiency in a way. So these are the kind of benefits that we have talked about here. And if you look at the question, it is option B that goes ahead and captures these. So increase in foreign investment, domestic income generation and consumption. These are the advantages that have been cited. Now, when you look at D, does it lead to modernization? Yes, but is it modernization of rural farm economies? Oh, are we specifically boiling it down to the agriculture sector? No. So the passage is more oriented towards B, and therefore we need to mark that as our answer. I can understand where D comes from. Normally when we read a passage, it is the last couple of paragraphs which are relatively fresh in our memory, and therefore those are the ones that we at times tend to choose. We tend to be biased by that information, and that at times can lead to such errors. But B it is. And with that, we are done with our passage. Let me introduce you to this next question type, which is popularly known as para jumbles. So in para jumbles, the examiner picks up some sentences. In the last few years in the CAT exam, we've gotten exactly 4 sentences. So see, the 4 sentences given in this question, when properly sequenced, form a coherent paragraph. So you need to read those 4 sentences, figure out their order or their arrangement, and then share that sequence of those 4 sentences with me in the comment box. So even in the exam, in the last few years, this question type has been a theta question. So theta question is where you type in the answer. So these are essentially non-MCQs. Does that make them a little more challenging? Yes, the answer choices can at times provide us with extra clues. But that said, in order to compensate for that higher difficulty level, the examiner says that, hey, we won't have any negative marking for these questions, right? So no negative marking in the exam, and therefore these are questions that you should definitely attempt. So here is the first para-jumble, but overall question number 5 of this series for us on your screen. Go ahead and tell me the best way of arranging these four. Okay, so Nishant, I see your answer. So let us start. Now, normally when I start solving these questions, I know that they can be solved on the basis of the clues that are scattered around. In case you're not aware of what those clues are and how to approach it, then I think you can definitely use a refresher course on these techniques. But let me highlight two areas for you. This is one, and this is another. So, and yet, slightly informal, but and yet basically shows contrast, right? So, which sentence should we put immediately before to that gives us that contrast? So, making sense of dreams is not wholly dissimilar from making sense of reality. So, lately, so what was the thought earlier? That earlier thought is shared here in sentence number 4. And the moment we see that, can I say that 1 and 4 should come together? And similarly, look at after all. After all is used to give you a similar idea. It supports something that corroborates what has been stated earlier. And that is where you would notice that 3 is actually supporting, 3 is actually supporting 2. Why did I use 1 plus 4? It should be 2 plus 4. Sorry. Hang on. I'm messing up the numbers a bit. So let's see. So and yet helps us connect 2 and 4 together. This after all helps us connect 4 and 2 together. And then this helps us connect 2 and 3 after all. So you notice second says making sense of dreams is not wholly dissimilar from making sense of reality. Why? That answer is here. That although we see the same world, but our interpretations are different from each other. And this is the same thing that we have said about dreams here. Even if you look at ideas, you would see how 4 and 2 tie up. So we know that 4, 2 and 3 should go together. Otherwise, we'd not be able to justify the use of and yet and after all. So where should we put in 1? So if I look at it in isolation, it can be 1, 4 or 4, 1. I'm happy with both, but we need to have 2 coming immediately after 4. So it is better to put 1 at the beginning, and therefore our sequence here should be 1, 4, 2, 3. All right. So let's move on to the next question. Once again, when you read these, identify some clues and use those clues to establish all of these connections. So here is the next one on your screen. Go ahead and give it a shot. Shall we start? So here is a clue that we may at times or we may occasionally miss out on. So look at this. Lee Strasberg and Strasberg. What does that tell you? We normally, and I'm emphasizing this word normally, it's difficult to boil life down to a formula, but normally we use the full name first and part of the name later, which means that, two should come before one. Okay, then another thing, look at this. James Dean and Dean. So you see something here. What do these things tell you? These things tell you that both 1 and 3 should also come after 4. Right? What else? Look at this he in 4th. He was thinking of James Dean. So here there are just two people mentioned, two persons mentioned, right? Lee Strasberg and James Dean. So he obviously needs to refer to Lee Strasberg, which means that 2 should also be put before 4th. So now if I start combining, it is obvious that we need to start with 2. What should I put afterwards? So let's read 2. Only a few sentences into his benedictory address, Lee Strasberg broke down into tears. You see, that's what I was afraid of, he said, and then paused for a long time. So suspenseful sentence. Then look at 1. Strasberg was moved to think of Dean because, and then look at 4th. He was thinking of James Dean. So 4 tells us he was thinking. First tells us why he was thinking. So we obviously need to have 4 before 1, another reason. So since we need to have 4 before 1, 2 before 4, I think it is best to put in 4 immediately afterwards. And then 1 gives you the reason for why he was thinking about James Dean. And then you can of course put in 3 at the end. So I think 2, 4, 1 is a sequence that we need to figure out. After that 3 can go in the end, right? So that's fine. So that should have worked. So 2, 4, 1, 3. This is the sequence that we would like to arrange these 4 sentences in. You notice we just focus on some clues and then provide the answer. So here is the next question for you on your screen. What's your take? Okay, so let's have a look at it too. Let me highlight certain clues for you. So let's see. There is a tough word. Let's get this out and discuss it. Absurdist juxtapositions. So what is a juxtaposition? Juxtaposition is when you show two things side by side in order to highlight their similarities or differences. You notice a lot of parents, especially new parents, would put their photographs of the childhood along with the photograph of their child side by side to show similarities. Now, absurdist juxtapositions would be where you put those things together in an image, which makes it absurd. For example, have a look at this. This is an absurdist juxtaposition. Why? There is a bald man who's shown using a hair dryer and a comb, which are, of course, not needed by the by a bald person at all. Or at least by a person who's tonsured his head. I don't know whether he's bald or not for sure. So that's an absurdist juxtaposition. Now see, fourth says absurdist juxtapositions and wild variations in style can also be surprising and often delightful. So right before this, you need to talk about something else which is surprising, and that is given to you in sentence 1. So that helps you connect 1 and 4 together. Then look at 2. But a surprise twist offers some rewards and faces some constraints that jump scares and absurdism don't. So this has to come after 1 and 3 because it says, okay, this is better than those two, right? So we definitely need to have 1, 4, 2. Where should 3 go? 3 looks like a sentence that introduces the topic of this paragraph, and therefore it is absolutely all right to put it right at the beginning, making 3142 the right answer, as Amisha and Nishant says, and Rajeshwari, it's okay. Let's just say you say it's so difficult. Let's say it is difficult yet. It is difficult for you so far. With enough practice, with enough skill building, this is going to be a cakewalk for you. Keep working with me and I'm sure you'd find it very easy in another few weeks. And with that, now let me introduce the next question variety. How are 1 and 4 connected? Okay. See this. So let me just highlight this part. Why do we use also? I had a burger for breakfast. I also had a milkshake. So you notice also shows continuation. So that's what we are really after. Okay, so for the next 2 questions, I think there were 2 of these. So 8 and 9, you've been given 5 jumbled up sentences. 4 of them belong to the same paragraph. 1 does not. So this question type is known as paragraph odd one out. So in this question type, the examiner would typically pick up 4 sentences from a paragraph and then introduce a 5th random sentence into the mix. Your job is to identify that 5th sentence and mark that number as your answer. So here is your question number 8 on the screen. 5 sentences. Tell me the one which does not belong. So these questions require you to read all the sentences, figure out the kind of topic that the paragraph deals with, and you'd find one sentence that moves beyond the scope of that topic, and you're supposed to choose that as your answer. Okay, so let's start. Okay. Now, if you read all of these sentences, there should be this one theme that emerges for you, and that is, it is essentially talking about capital versus wealth, right? Capital versus wealth. So then you have capital consists of this, this, and this. Wealth, on the other hand, is this. So if you start linking, you'd realize 2, 5, and 1 are definitely linked together. So capital versus wealth. So 5 talks about capital, 1 talks about wealth. So that leaves you with 3 and 4. Which one goes with these 3 sentences, 2, 5, and 1, better? 4. 4 is still talking about a capitalist, whereas who is a capitalist and who is not, whereas third talks about a characteristic of modern capitalist economy which is not linked with this. So 2514 can be created as a paragraph, leaving 3 out, and therefore 3 should be our answer right here. This question type can be challenging for those of you who have not practiced these questions much or have not been introduced to why we divide a text into paragraphs, etc. But it's okay. This is just the beginning. We are just introducing you to these various question types so that you know what lies ahead. And mind you, as far as these sessions go, there is no negative marking. You and I work together here so that we can eventually move towards greatness. So here is the next paragraph, odd one out for you. You have 5 sentences here. One does not belong to this paragraph, and you're supposed to choose that as your answer. Go ahead, give it a shot. Rajeshwari, jumbled basically, as the word itself suggests, some paragraphs, some sentences of a paragraph are jumbled. So which means that they are not in the right sequence. Right? For example, since you work in a hospital, normally when a human fetus grows, every cell starts performing a specialized task eventually, right? And that is how all these organs are formed. But if those cells are not specialized, or what if they fail to specialize and they just keep on growing at random, then we'd say that it is not a fetus, it is just a jumbled mass of cells. Okay, so let's see. Sentence 1. When she was a kid, Sophia Pali spent summers with her family at Lake Balaton in Western Hungary. Right? Now, see, if I look at it as a descriptive text, fourth can come in next. Many Hungarians then could not afford travel to other countries, she says, so that the Lake Balaton, was an exotic getaway. For others, so there were these Hungarians, for it was an exotic getaway. For others, it was a respite. So 4 and 3 actually go in together. So they united on its shores for vacations. Now you notice we normally do not use the term shore for a lake, but then people called it the Hungarian Sea, even though it was a lake. So when you start connecting, you'd realize 1, 4, 3, and 5 definitely going together. Whereas in second, we are suddenly, you notice there is a jump. We suddenly see that Pali has become a photographer. How? She keeps returning to capture one particular aspect of Lake Balaton, its shallowness. But when did she become a photographer? Why does she keep coming back to it? All of those things need to be stated before. Now, the other 4 sentences do not talk about it. So if you look at sentence 1, 3, 4 and 5, they're just talking about a lot of Hungarian people visiting that particular lake. Whereas second, suddenly takes you away from the lake and the focus shifts to Pali, who has now become a photographer. So there is a jump cut. There are a lot of other things that need to be talked about in between if you want to go from these 4 to 2, and that is why our answer here should be 2. Okay, so that's about the different question varieties that we get asked in the CAT. So if you've attended this session and the previous one, you've been exposed to the 4 core question types, leaving out just one, and that is para completion. I'd hopefully be able to introduce you to that variety real soon. Okay, so that's it from me today. Start working. If you find it difficult, you still need to work. And here is a thought that you can keep in mind. People fail because of one of 2 reasons. First, they do not know what to do to improve. These sessions help you with that. Or they know what to do and simply are not doing it. And if that is your concern, do let us know, and I can definitely give you more and more inputs on this as well. So either way, you can take action and change your life. Whether you're able to get those questions right or wrong does not matter. The moment you start putting in that effort, the moment you put in a bit of elbow grease, a bit of sweat, you can definitely go on and become amazing at